Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Unless you've been living under a rock, Jadon just won the National Chess Championship 2025. Exciting stuff. This was one of the exciting times that I've seen someone win, and he's literally young. He's like 14 now, and he won this nationals with a game in hand. So he could have literally not played the last game, and he'd have still won. That was exciting. And the games that I'm about to show you right now are even more exciting. So in this video, I'm just going to be covering the games that Jadon played. Let's get into the videos. So the first game ensued, and it was between Jadon and Lin Mutaiga. One of my favorite games, honestly. For a first game, this is a very good appetizer. Like, everything about this game is so technical and precise, and he punishes the mistakes so efficiently. I like everything about the game. And you just notice what I mean by that. So immediately, e4 is played, c5 Sicilian, of course, expected, and just normal Sicilian moves, and this is like the open variation, and immediately transposes into the Najdov. And yeah, immediately you can see all the moves in the Najdov are played. Usually there are all these ideas of pushing pawn here, preventing your opponent from coming in, but in this particular case, they usually even want to wait a little bit longer. But yeah, immediately they've gone into quite a different variation. This is a bit more complicated, but still very much playable on both sides. So you will notice pawn has been pushed, very nice pawn, with ideas of pushing it even further. Usually it is very hard to attack that pawn. And notice the knight has been restricted for now, but it doesn't matter as long as you have a way to develop it. So immediately pawn has been pushed, and notice extended, but both sides don't have a way to take advantage of it. Coming back here doesn't work because this is going to be hanging, right? I mean, you can go into there, but still you have to remember this is hanging. So you need to be able to find a way to attack your opponent while defending your pieces. So notice immediately here, the queen comes in. Queen coming here is a nice move because now it also allows for the pawn to be later defended. And that queen comes up, and knight now is being developed, and all these moves are all nice moves. So now here the idea obviously is going to be bringing the rook in. I mean, if this pawn wasn't being attacked, this can also come in, but usually you want to decide which rook is not optimized. And you can notice in this position, this is the rook that is not optimized. You want to bring all of the pieces to participate in the game. And here Mutaiga just brings in his rook, and it's a nice idea trying to defend the pawn. And probably, yeah, I think that is the best way to proceed, because I mean, how else are you going to defend the pawn? So here you can notice the rook comes in, and immediately after that, so the pawn has been pushed. Pay attention to this pawn, right? Trying to prevent the knight coming in, but I don't even think the knight can come in there because the bishop is seeing that square. But immediately the pawn, this is a nice pawn push. So notice how he's making all the optimization moves. So here he can't do anything in the position, which I usually recommend to my students optimize your pieces in that case. This bishop is not doing anything. So obviously you have to optimize it, bring it to a square where it is able to do something in the position. Here it is just seeing rocks. So obviously he tries to optimize the pieces, and Mutaiga here tries to bring in his rooks to defend this pawn, but this pawn is sufficiently defended. What he needed to do here is, I believe, try to create a sufficient friction for his opponent by attacking this pawn, because it's a weakness in your opponent's position. So you want to put enough pressure on your opponent's weaknesses such that they do not have enough time to attack him. But here just I played some passive moves, and like this is again a passive move. Maybe the idea might be try to bring the queen here and try to attack the dark squares, but look at that. The bishop has come back. This was a weakness that was created, but now the bishop is defending all the dark square weaknesses, which is amazing play. And here the rook comes in there trying to be a little bit more patient by the pawn push. Oh, this is a good pawn push. The highest recommended computer move, pawn push. Isn't that just a lovely move? Really, really good. And here, the only way to move forward is to take, and then when the knight comes back, you just drop back with the queen. Any other mover is losing. You can't go forward, you can't come, like, your queen doesn't have any other good move. I presume that is perhaps why he dropped back with the bishop, so that he can have an escape square for the queen. but it doesn't play it. So just a second ago I said any other move was losing. Why is it losing? And here you can see the kid just uncorks brilliant moves, like back to back. First of all, he drops the queen. I feel like this deserves a brilliant move, not a brilliant move, but perhaps an excellent move. How do I like that one? Yeah, something like that, right? And here, why is that a really good move? Well, the queen is trapped. No matter what you do, the queen is going to get trapped. Once this knight leaves to go and check this is going to fall. So there is nothing that you can do at this point to save your queen. And here you can't go this side. That's why the knight coming back here was brilliant. It covers that and it covers that too. But this is it's covered by many pieces, so you don't even need to worry about that. What you need to worry about is that square being covered, and the knight does that. And immediately he tries to free up his space for the queen to come back, but it just doesn't work. Check, captures the knight, and the queen goes. And after this, it was just this is a really good move. So here the pawn is being attacked by the bishop. Most people would want her to defend it with another piece, but he blocks her with a pawn. I mean, he blocks her with a knight. Really good move. I like that defense. First of all, if your opponent takes, you're just going to take back. And you have a queen, so you don't have to worry too much about anything in this position. And here you can see the opponent tries to enter into the position. And look at that. Just, I have too many rooks. Let me just give away one. You know, I'm not that selfish. That is the vibe that I'm getting from this position. It's just like, oh, you bring in a knight. Let me give you a rook. I mean, why not? I'm a generous man. But believe it or not, that is the best move. Because you don't want the knight entering into the position. That is actually is the strongest piece. It's attacking too many things in the position. You're better off just eliminating it. It is attacking way too many. Right? And look at that. The continuation is just so clean. Here the conversion happened so quick. Like all the moves that is playing are just natural. Natural looking move. You want to defend that. Make sure that your pieces like the queen enters into the position and just simplify things and make it easy. Attacking all the weaknesses in your opponent's position. This is how you want to play the game. Especially in this particular case, attacking your opponent's weaknesses. At this point, you can even exchange the queen. The queen is just too strong. These two pawns are going to be a pen in your opponent's bosom. So you try to just make sure that you put enough pressure on your opponent, attacking the weaknesses, and look at that. The game finished so quickly. And here, believe it or not, the game is done. This pawn is going to be pushed, and this king can never have any good squares to go to. And look at that. The rook goes there, check, just move out of the way, and the king enters into the position. Look, the pieces don't have any good squares to go to. He's bringing in the king. This is what you want to do in the endgame. Bring the king to the center. To the center, that's where the king belongs in the endgame. You need it to be very active so that it can go in all directions, right? It can go in all directions and capture the pawns. So this is just simply too clean and methodical. And after this, the opponent resigned. He resigned because it is just hard. How do you proceed here? Here, this is the computer suggestion. This is how the game would have continued. Check. The bishop goes. Check. And checkmate just comes on its own. Quite methodical. Very good first round. I quite enjoyed this one a little bit too much, actually. So in the second round, it was Jadon with the black pieces and Irungu with the white pieces. Really interesting game. Really liked everything about this game. I just don't know. The games are just so precise and clean that you do not know the best words to use for it. Like you are thinking, like, what just happened in that game? And this was one of those games, right? I like the precision, so you can see d4, d5, the knight comes out, knight, and simple. You might be thinking, it's just going to be a simple Catalan, and it is. For the first part of the game, the opening, it was just a basic Catalan. You know, captures here, and this is apparently the classical open Catalan, and this it's quite interesting. Most people don't usually take there, And this is something that is a little bit modern, and I notice most of the grandmasters are playing this kind of positions. They're really enjoying these positions. They don't delay. In most cases, you would have delayed this. Maybe you're afraid that your opponent is going to come and capture the pawn, gain some tempo, but at this point, it has been analyzed and studied, and most people are just not afraid. They just take immediately, and you focus on developing your pieces. Just release the tension, basically. And the queen comes in, you just allow for your opponent to take, and yeah, basically, you just allow for your opponent to take, and those are like three moves that they've played, and they haven't done much development in the position. And this has been studied. Nothing exactly wrong with this, but it's just not the best way to move for white. You generally want to bring out your knight and take there, but also this is okay, right? So nothing particularly wrong with the position. Everything is good. The bishop comes in, really, really good positioning from the bishop, right? This is just a amazing position. Like, look at this, the dominance. It has established itself in the center, and it said, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to stay." The pawn is pushed. Amazing pawn push. I've noticed that this is like a continuous pattern. Is pushing the pawn. Interesting stuff. And after this, pawn push. The pawn is just entering in. Pawn at b3 is a very strange pawn, and not many pawns are just in the opening come to b3 and like, I'm going to stay here. It's a rare thing, right? And the pawn comes in, and after that, the bishop now enters into the position. You might want, oh, let me retreat the bishop. No, the bishop enters into the position. This is a good move because first of all, the bishop in the center is very strong, but the bishop here chases away the rook while you gain tempo, and you can now develop your other pieces, which is always a good thing. You are gaining just one quick move, and now you can develop your knight. But yeah, this pawn push just blocks in the bishop, and I just don't like it. Take away the bishop, because now the bishop is not doing anything in this particular position. But of course, the bishop gets its play, and everything is just moving accordingly. And notice, at this point, you might be thinking, well, this is like a minus 8, minus 0.8, like nothing too crazy here, right? What if I told you at this point the game is going to end like in a few moves? Say next 2-3 moves, the game is about to end. Would you believe that? And you might be wondering, well, how? How does it end in the next few moves? Well, look at this. Knight goes there. Knight enters into the position. Huge threat. You're threatening both of those pieces. The queen is obviously supposed to move. The queen moves, and what does it do? Capture the bishop. Me personally, I really like that move, honestly. Like, allowing for, I mean, this can capture, but you're going to double up your pieces. If you capture with the rook, now whenever you capture this knight with the other knight, it's going to be a fork, and like, just good stuff. And like, notice this, right? I don't think he was even supposed to come back. I think just dropping back here would have been a much better and preferred idea. And the point of playing that is you want to eliminate this knight. This knight is doing a lot of damage in the position. It's restricting a lot of pieces from going forward, and it's just not ideal. But look at this. Pawn push. Here now the only move is that move. But it's not as obvious. Because what do you mean after the knight comes back and the pawn is pushed? What do you mean this game is over? Like, what do you mean the opponent resigned? Well, the thing is, if you go in there, like if you go back to h4, the knight still comes into the position. Check. The queen takes, the pawn is going to take. You take with the knight, the bishop takes. This was just methodical. The queens are being lost left, right, and center, which is unexpected. Some might even say it's juju. But I would say the kid is playing really well. Like, the way he's punishing these mistakes is just incredible. Love it. Love it. So this is round 2. the game is done. So you might be wondering, Jadon has been playing against people that are older than him. He might be a little bit more energetic. What happens if he faces someone that is on edge? And that is exactly what happens in this game with Cow Cooker. So Jadon has white pieces and Cow has their black pieces. And it just starts off as a normal Karokan. And now they enter into the advanced variation. And this is basically like the Botvinnika variation, and these are likely to be the moves that are going to be played. Just develop your pieces quickly, and just some quicker piece placement, and just you start quickly developing the castle in this position and defend your weaknesses like the pawn that is on e5. And here immediately Cow plays there, which was quite surprising. It's theoretical. The idea of the move is so that you can be as aggressive as possible. You want to bring in your rook and just attack there, or your opponent's king side, so that they don't castle there. Or even if they do castle, there is always that pressure over being attacked with the rooks and all that. And then you want to castle, in this particular case, queen side, and bring in all of your rooks to this file, which is going to be open. Those are going to be the ideas. But here, I didn't like particularly how Cow played the position. So in this particular case, you want to just restrict your opponent a little bit and don't allow them to push all of their pawns. Here you can even play a move like this and develop your bishop. Here you bring out your queen and castle, queen side, and take your king in the corner. But none of that happened. The bishop has been dropped back. And yeah, so in this particular position, just really interesting how Cow decided to approach this game. I wasn't a particular fan of the bishop coming here because it's blocking in the rook, which is coming to g8 and just attacking g2. And here you might want to put pressure on this pawn, but the pawn is sufficiently defended. And I do not see how you can add in enough pressure on the pawn that you're going to capture it. And here, notice the knight comes in, attacking the bishop. The knight is developed. Probably serving the bishop would have been ideal in this case, because the bishop is going to be very strong, especially in this particular position. You don't want to eliminate all of your bishops. But again, the knights are going to be strong because of how the game is a little bit closed. But once the game opens, those bishops are going to be nightmares. So that is a good move, capture. And then after this, okay, so I don't like it is okay. What he has played is not particularly wrong. It's not like it's at grandmaster level where you make one mistake and the game is gone. But the whole idea of opening up that was so that you can put enough pressure on the position. And he hasn't taken the bishop. I would have much rather that he had taken the bishop, because the bishop is just strong. Like, especially if you want to castle on the side where it is open like this, and your opponent has a light square bishop. But let's continue. And here the pawn is being attacked, and Jadon just simply ignores it. He's attacking the knight and putting enough pressure. Maybe this knight can go into the position in that way and just cover d6 and just be the octopus knight and cover everything in black's position. And that would have been a nicer idea. But here immediately Cow takes the bait. That is not a good move, right? It's not a good move because I think Cow missed the move that was immediately played, which is just b6. b6 is a nice move. The queen is overwhelmed, so this knight is going to be lost, or this bishop is going to fall. So at this point, not much that you can do, but sacrifice this. I personally believe him taking back his queen would have been better. Lose this and capture the rook and go for this position, right? The rooks are likely to do some more damage when they are the two of them, and just try to connect them as quickly as possible, as compared to just losing a piece for free. So that is kind of desperado moves. In this particular case, he decided to capture h2, and the knight just comes back and captures, and the queen goes back there. And notice immediately he has lost a piece. The Eva is up in the skies. It's like 5 at this point. And just at this point, he doesn't even try to do anything fancy, just the slow grind, trying to exchange the pieces, because of course he's up a piece. Of course, Cow refuses, and after this, exchange. And notice eventually he's just going to have a free knight. And this knight is going to make out the difference, because a knight is a knight. The exchange happens, and all the pieces are getting exchanged off the board. And this pawn is just going to easily promote. And there's nothing that he can do about that. And immediately, Jadon ended up winning the game. So in round 4, we'll be covering a game Jadon played against Mehul. Exciting game as well. The French was played. This is a very good take on the French. And it's just everything seems normal, like it's a normal French. And you might be thinking, it's closed, and like nothing extraordinary here, right? They played the advanced, they played the Terzic, and like everything is just seemingly normal. The pieces are exchanged, no imbalances, nothing abnormal here, nothing that we haven't seen castle. And yeah, all of a sudden, he finishes the development of his pieces. And like in this case, right, I really like the approach that Mehul took. Like everything that he has done here is the things that he's supposed to do, right? You've closed down the center. There is no way to penetrate through. And now, obviously, you're going to start pushing these pawns because you want to attack where your opponent's king is. And him, obviously, is going to want to break apart this strong center. And the only way to break that apart is with this pawn break. But this just finished so quickly. Like all these ideas are the things that are supposed to happen in the French, right? But look at this. Immediately, I don't like the pawn push being pushed once. I feel like you should have committed all the way. Just try to put enough pressure on the position. I'm guessing you wanted to give push the pawn here, just create that pawn break. I believe you should have gone all the way, just push the pawns and create those weaknesses. Probably move the queen out of the way and bring all the rooks this other side of the board. I feel like that would have been the best way to go about this position. But look at this. Knight comes back, and pawn has been pushed, f5, and bishop. Just simple moves, right? I feel like here also pawn pusher should have been the way to go at this point. Like just lock down immediately. I think he should have immediately gone for that idea. But again, it has not been pushed. And I feel like when that move wasn't played, when the pawn wasn't pushed to f4, it allowed for so much counterplay, if I'm being honest, right? Like from a human perspective, you might be thinking, well, it's not that much, and the pawn pusher, like you can see, the computer is not agreeing. But it's about the counterplay. It's not about the fact that the computer agrees is the best move. No, it's about from a human perspective, what is the best move that you can play. The queen coming here is not ideal, right? Usually you want to place this bishop at an ideal square, allowing for the queen to come up and the rook to be the one that comes there, not the queen coming here, because it's just not an ideal square for the queen. So you completely ignore everything that is happening here. Maybe you could have brought the queen this other side and maybe lift it up and bring the rook in. It's a little bit of a complicated position, but look at this. After knight captures, and pawn captures. Opening up in the center is risky, but if the queen was here, it would have been a much ideal strategy. Open up for the queen, block it here, and if your opponent pushes in the center, you're obviously going to capture. This pushed, capture, and nothing is going to eventually happen there. The center is going to remain locked. I believe that would have been much more ideal as compared to what happened in the game. So look at this. The rook comes, first move. The pawn has been pushed. It's not doing anything, right? What does it do? Completely ignores it. Goes out. If you capture there, the knight comes in, and what do you do after that? Not much. So Amerigo lifts up the rook, and immediately the queen comes in. Obviously, there's going to be tripling over the queen just to attack the pieces on that side of the board, the knight, and everything. But here in this particular game, there is not much that can be done. Because he has opened up, and that is the best move, right? You're attacking the rook. But look at this. The rook, there's a battery that has been formed there. Switch triple battery that has been formed there. And simply just start going back and exchanging is a mistake. Everything just crumbles because of that move. Amazing stuff. Really, really good move. Love this move. Oh, what could possibly be better than this move, honestly, in this position? Like if you go back, there's an exchange, you lose the queen, and then on top of that, you lose the rook. You can't go there. You can come here, but that is still going to go back to the same thing. The rook comes in, the queen comes in, this force, that force, and everything just crumbles in the position. And the game is over. Kudos to Mayhu for just resigning at this position, because of course you don't want to embarrass yourself and make yourself seem like you don't know how to play chess. Because at this point the game is just completely lost. There's nothing that you can do, absolutely nothing that you can do in this position to survive. But yeah, amazing game. So this is a game that was played in round 5. It was Jadon with the black pieces against Martin, and it was just quite a methodical game. The endgame was precise and clean. I just liked it. And you can see here immediately the English is played, and notice it's a much more different game. We're not used to seeing Jadon play the English game, and like this is just really good. And notice here already being very aggressive. We're going into a neo-Catalan kind of English, and this is just very clean. Notice the pieces, no more development, right? You might be thinking these are just normal moves, right? The bishop comes there and immediately it's punished. I like that move. The point of this is you're blocking out your opponent's very strong bishop. And now this bishop will not participate for the rest of the game. And you notice the bishop barely participated in the rest of the game. The moves are just normal, nothing too crazy, nothing too special. He brings in the piece, and here probably you should have taken this piece, because you destroy your opponent's structure and give your pawn a very clear path on how it's going to proceed and penetrate through the game. But of course that wasn't played. So here notice there's an inaccuracy there, and here Joroge should just take the knight, and they exchange the pieces, and quickly they move on better. Because the thing is, once your opponent takes this and they double up your pieces, probably taking with the bishop is much more clear. But so like here, yeah, even the knight taking is okay. Bishop, is the bishop better here? The bishop has a lot of space, so I would say taking with the knight might be better in that position. But yeah, here they don't take, they delay a little bit until finally Joroge takes, and you can see here there no more movements, right? Joroge here doesn't have much to play for. Like he doesn't have many moves to make, and just brings in, like, notice all the moves that he's making, right? I wouldn't even exactly call these like improvement moves. Like, yeah, Jadon is trying his best. Like, look at this, right? All of the moves, like the past 3-4 moves that he has played, the bishop coming back, the rook coming here, the knight, like all of them have not been like really forceful moves. They're not having any impact on the position. And notice here the position of Jadon is improving slowly but surely. Remember what I told you about this bishop not participating? Well, it really isn't participating in this particular position. And yeah, it tries to be a little bit more forceful here. The computer doesn't like it, but there's no particular way to punish that, right? The computer is saying play e3. Who's going to play e3 in this position? Like your opponent just played a move, and he's saying play e3, which in hindsight seems like a really good move, because you don't want your opponent to just push there and block all of your pieces from literally ever coming out. So here he tries to bring out the knight and try to rotate it if the pawn is pushed. The pawn is pushed, and the knight try to recover and gain some space. Here the pawn push. This is a nice move. Like usually when you cannot make any progress on the king side, try to do something on the queen side, and he's really doing a good job over that. Just attacking on both sides of the board. Notice how all of the Martin's pieces right now are restricted. They can't do much in the game. The queen goes back, capture, and here notice the pieces are not doing much. Like all of these pieces are not participating, they're just waiting for something to happen in the position. And here another idea would be just rotating in there, rook, bringing it to h7, and just dropping back the bishop and just instigate and attack these weaknesses in your opponent's position. But you can see here it took a much more different approach. And yeah, the pieces have been exchanged. Nothing to play for on the queen side right now, but later it becomes very much impactful and very important. And here a few moves are played, just moving about, trying to get a feel of the position. And here that was a really nice move. So probably, did he even have a better move here? Yeah, this was the only move that he had, because otherwise the queen is trapped. So he goes back there, he loses a pawn, and here the computer just likes going back to e5. But me personally, from a human perspective, I prefer the move that Jadon actually played. So creating some weaknesses in the position and trying to penetrate through, create an opening for the rook, something to attack, and quickly try to exchange the pieces. I really liked the move. And here there's a quick exchange. The bishops try to attack, and quickly there is a quickly there's he tries to mobilize the pieces. The bishop goes, and like, notice there is just a quick simplification. This bishop never participated in the game. Literally couldn't pass through. It couldn't go anywhere forward. And this is what I meant when I said that bishop will never play in the game. Very good restriction. The bishop is attacked. It has to move. Okay, so he first checks and then moves the bishop back. And here, of course, Jadon tries to force an exchange. Because, I mean, what else can white exactly do? The exchange just feels a little bit more natural. But I would say at this point, just keeping the rooks on the border would be ideal, because, I mean, you do not have much to play for once you exchange the rooks. This rook will just dominate all over your pieces. Your bishop is literally not participating. This bishop will be stuck defending this pawn, because you can't push these pawns forward. It's going to be captured. And for those that are not informed and initiated, that's called en passant. So there is no way to make progress. And because of that, after the exchange, pay attention to this king, right? It's in the corner right now, but I want you to pay attention to it. Look at the work that it does. The king, honestly, most valuable piece in this particular game. Look at this, right? Look at the king, right? Try to force an exchange. He doesn't want. Then try to force an exchange. He doesn't want. Okay, the bishop enters into the position. And then just look at the king. Forgive my lagging. My computer is lagging a little bit, but just look at that. Look at that. Exchange, and then the rook comes in there. Amazing move. So this is a very good move, because it gains tempo on the king. You can't move away the bishop. This is still lost. If you move the king, this is still lost. And after the pawn capture, just Martin resigned. Amazing, amazing endgame play here. And for those that are wondering, well, can't he just take? Well, he can, but this just force. And he ends up winning. Really, really good game. I like it. Probably my second favorite game over the games he played. So with that out of the way, in round 6, he was playing against Kenneth Omolo. So it was Jadon against Kenneth Omolo, and it was a very, very interesting game. Really loved everything about it. Honestly, it was a bit technical, I would say, but everything about it was just clean. The back defense was played here, and nothing too unnatural here. Just nothing that has not been seen in particular. Okay, so the computer doesn't like that move. And the reason being is because it likes the fact that you can wait a little bit longer. So like you can bring this knight in and just wait for a bit longer. So you're developing your piece, and then you can try to capture this because after that this pawn is now defended. That's why the computer doesn't like that. And I understand that, right? That makes a lot of sense. But here you can see he delays a little bit longer. And I don't think this was completely unnecessary, right? It's just it was supposed to go in immediately and capture the piece. Maybe with a knight, but yeah, still nonetheless. And I'm guessing he didn't like the idea of the queen entering into the position and just instigating his pieces. But I think there should be an easy solution to that. Let me just the computer doesn't even like the idea of capturing immediately. So it should be an easy solution to that. You just give up that pawn. In the meantime, you've taken up the center and you're going to easily open up. The bishop is going to stay in there. Your opponent cannot go all the way to that corner. And I feel like that should be all right. I don't know. I just don't like the yeah. I don't like the fact that he didn't capture that because now you have given up. You not only have you not given up that pawn, but now you can't even capture this pawn right now. And here you can see the moves were being played just seemingly natural. And look at this, right? The knight, the maneuver of the knight is crazy. Probably go there or even here, right? And it's just interesting. That's a very interesting knight maneuver, right? And now you're threatening the bishop. The pawn push. Ooh, pawn push is clean. I like that. So take. The bishop can take, but the queen falls. So you have to defend that. I just like that. And also it's being defended by the queen. This is a nice move, right? So now the knight enters into the position. It's threatening to come and capture the pawn. So probably the bishop going to g7 is going to be the best move. He doesn't go for that. That's bored. Okay, yeah, that's bored. That's very bored. Ooh, that's bored. That is a very bored choice. Honestly, that is a very bored choice. That's a. The kid is making it look easy. The kid is making it look easy. What a sacrifice. What a sacrifice. Mm, what a sacrifice. Honestly, one of my favorite moves in the position, in the game. Like, just suck it. Take it. I'm giving it to you. It's all yours. Wow. Yeah, so that was the main pointer. He shouldn't have captured the knight. Probably just coming in and defending there. Pawn, probably the knight goes in there, tries to instigate the position. That would have been the best way to continue from our position. But still, just look at that. Suck. I don't need it. Take it. Take it. That's what he said. Take the queen. Honestly, really good move. Really good move. Yeah, because even if I was expecting that, but when it just happened on the board, it just caught me by surprise for some unknown reason. Like, yeah, I think everything is put into perspective as to why the kid is winning. Cause I mean, what kind of play is this? So yeah, he gave back the queen because of course the checkmate is coming there. And just notice this simple simplification, bring in the pieces, and look at that. So at this point, Kenneth Omolo resigned and he ended up winning. Oh, what a beautiful game. I take it back. I feel like this was my favorite game. Yeah, this was my favorite game from this from his games. What? Yeah, yeah. This is so much potential. I hope this potential doesn't go wasted. Cause what? What? Oh, really, really good game. And yeah, in round seven, another exciting game. He was playing against Ben Magana, one of the best veteran players in Kenya. Actually, he has been one of the most consistent players in Kenya, like for a long time. Came to Kenya, he was beating people, and now still beating people. Another exciting game, very exciting game. Let me just allow you to watch the game. Just easily, the Reti was played and then transposed into the Indian King's Indian, and it was just then at some point here it transposes into some Catalan kind of ideas. Like it is just very interesting to see on the board, right? So quickly the development has happened, and of course this is exactly how I want to develop your pieces. Look at this, all of them have a sufficient space. The rook has come into the game, and this is always what I usually tell my students: like develop your pieces as quickly as possible so that they are active. You do not want to have a piece lagging behind. And you can see Magana has done the same thing, right? He has developed all of these pieces. All of his knights are just coming into the position, and you can see all the knights are active in this particular position. That's why this is called the Indian game and the knight's variation, right? Because it's usually a knight game. It's about the maneuvering of the knight, which knight goes where, and how do you coordinate them so that you have a maximum space. So here, notice quickly the bishop is developed, capture, capture, and now just normal and simple moves, right? This was to some extent, as compared to other games, I would say a relatively boring game. But still, the excitement is still there. The moves that are being played, right? You can see Jadon trying to maneuver the pieces. He gets his pawns doubled. And you can see here the computer doesn't like that move exactly. It much prefers this move, which I agree. Like, between the two, I would say that just taking the knight is much better. And you can see after that the exchanger, and again him capturing there wasn't the best move, because now in this particular case you can just relieve the other knight. You don't have to double your pawns, right? When your opponent captures there, you just bring back your knight, try to attack the pawn, and with the hopes of forking the two pieces. I would say that is a much more better move as compared to what was played in the game. But still, he brings in the knight, which is supposed to be the move that is supposed to be played in this particular case. Obviously, chase away the knight, try to attack this pawn, and bring in the queen to defend the pawn on e3. That is going to be the plan. That's how you defend this position. Okay, attack the knight comes in, attack the queen. Oh, this is a good block. It's a good block. Now notice you can't come here because the rook has moved, and this would be a fork on both pieces. So that is a good block. The queen comes there, the bishop goes here, right? And after this capture, which is in essence a very good move, your opponent just has this simple capture. Yeah, all these moves were played, and he decided to go back all the way in defender, everything. And yeah, what? Wait, what? Okay. Honestly, I don't understand why I would play that. Yeah, yeah, I have no idea. That exchange was completely not necessary. It was uncalled for. Yeah, I don't understand why that move was played. Probably might have miscalculated something. But yeah, notice after this, everything just falls apart. He's trying to force an exchange, and after this, now the king has to come in. So in the end game, always make sure that you bring in your king. This is the moment for your king to shine, right? And that is exactly what he starts doing. And in this case, he's threatening to capture that pawn. When the bishop comes here, anywhere actually the bishop goes, it's going to exchange the pawn, and there's going to be a pawn push here after the exchange of the bishops at e4. So obviously he resigned at this point. It's a little bit hard to see, but eventually he's just going to lose everything. After he loses this pawn, and these two pawns are attacking, and they are threatening to promote, eventually we'll just lose. Amazing game again by Jadon. It's just interesting how he's making it look so easy. Like this is not something that is particularly easy. It's not easy to beat someone like Magana, I would say. But he just made it look so clean for some unknown reason. So this was the eighth game for Jadon, and one of the more exciting ones. He was playing against Howie Kaloki, and I really liked this game. It was very exciting, ups and downs, and everything that we just like about the game of chess. So complicated and so entertaining at the same time. So here E4 was played, and you can see Sicilian, and you can say Grand Prix. Who doesn't love a good Grand Prix? Who doesn't love a good Grand Prix? Okay, I do. I do. I don't know about others, but just so much goodness in this opening. But yeah, you can see, and yeah, yeah, all the good stuff, all the good stuff. He's doing the necessary. He's doing the necessary. Like I can go into it, like explain the Grand Prix some other time, but the idea is usually push pawn, and this bishop is likely to come here. This knight, there's always a rotation here. One of my um one of my favorite opens, if I'm being honest, against a Sicilian. Yeah, Grand Prix is always the way to go. And then there is always a way to rotate in the rook here. The knight comes in there, and it's always just exciting. And like you can see, this did not disappoint. Look at that. Take it. I just don't care. Take it. I dare you. Yeah, I like this game. All right. I like this game. And then he enters into the position, of course, just letting him capture the pawns, right? But I feel like he gave him a little bit too much, if I'm being honest. Gave him a little bit too much, like when it comes to the pawns. He could have easily defended those pawns, but I just like how aggressive he was. Just to the core. Amazing move. Capture, that's not the best move. You ought to allow your opponent to capture. Yeah. Now the rook here needs to come up and enter into the position. Of course, there'll be ideas of the knight coming here, but you need to be aware that this is a weakness. You need to defend that first. And also there is the knight can come in and just deflect this other knight so that you can achieve the checkmate. And those are usually the ideas. So here he pushes the pawn, and I can say you can simply just ignore it. You can simply just ignore that pawn. Yeah, you don't have to capture. I do not like the approach here. I think coming in would have been a much better idea. What does the computer suggest? Yeah, just rook f3. And like I told you initially, these are the ideas of the Grand Prix. If you're interested in learning more about the Grand Prix, you can just tell me. I can create like a full course on the Grand Prix. Yeah, one of my favorite opens, or just basically f4. F4 is like the way to go for me. Probably I'll try to adjust it and add in more repertoires for my f4, but this is just usually the way to go. One of the strongest openings, and here it should be ending. One push, not the best idea. Yeah, f3, because you are threatening the knight over here, and now you're also threatening to enter into the position and just go and attack. You can even see the advantages reduced a little bit, but still okay, right? Attacking, so he's attacking the knight here. He can check, but the knight is just going to replace by the other knight, and it's also attacking the queen, so he has to respond to that appropriately. And here, the capture is not the best move. Yeah, probably moving the rook. Yeah, moving the rook up is going to be. I know, quite strange, huh? But moving the rook up is the way to go in this position. And the computer has a very interesting sequence, which is here, and then after knight takes. I'm guessing knight takes. Yeah, that should be the obvious move. And then after here, queen gone. Now you're just simply a piece up. You can push the pawn, but this is going to fall, and that should result into an easy win for I would say white. And this is also hanging, so he has to defend that. And voila. Yeah, the fool would have been graceful here. This is yeah. You shouldn't have taken that knight. So ideally you need to understand the ideas, right? Like what are the ideas of the attack, so that when you reach that point, you already know what you are going to do. This I can talk about this opening all day and all night. One of my favorites, right? So here after capture, and yeah, the continuation here is just yeah, he could have waited. He could have waited. So here not see, so this was supposed to be the initial move even before the pawn pushes and all that. That was supposed to be the way to go. So here he doesn't have much of an option. He has to move for the and capture. This is just breathtakingly good, if I'm being honest. He could have played it better, but the knight comes back, yeah, because now you're threatening checkmate. Uh, is it really checkmate? Actually, it will be checkmate in a few moves. So if you play any move, there is check. That's actually checkmate. So you need to defend against that. So probably the knight coming in here, but there's also this, and this is just crazy. So he goes in and sacrifices the queen, which is nice to see. Really nice to see. Ah, okay, yeah, which is really nice to see. It's a really nice move. So the idea is that after you take her, the rook takes, and then there is going to be check with the knight, and then you're going to take the rook, and then the queen falls. So it's basically just like an exchange. But he could have easily won this game, like so easily, way before, right? And I mean, I would have loved to enjoy more games of Jadon, but if your opponent is playing the Grand Prix and they are playing the right ideas, that I love to see. That I love to see. But yeah, so in this case, you can see the computer is saying it's drawn. The pawns that were captured in the whole process were just too many. You've just given up way too many pawns, even though you have a knight. So if we're counting points here, we can say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, and your opponent has like about 7 pawns. So we have about equivalent amount of in terms of material. But the pieces, there's an imbalance there. So we can see how that goes. So how that imbalance might make a difference. You can see the computer is moving back and forth, switcheroo and all that. And yeah, yeah, it's a bit hard to win this one. The pawns are just too many, way too many, right? Yeah, and once this pawn goes, now that's just an automatic draw. There's nothing that you can do about that. So, and that is exactly what happened. And yeah, this is just drawn. Oh, but I'm guessing it went on for a bit longer. Yeah, yeah, they're both trying to win, but yeah, you can see this is just drawn. It's very good to see. I would have wanted the Grand Prix to win because how he played really well, no lie, amazing stuff. I really liked the ideas and everything in between, but it just felt short by just a few moves. But that is just. So in the ninth game that Jadon played, he played against Boera Felix, and it is one of the more interesting games. If Jadon loses in this game, then everybody has like a good chance to catch up. But if he wins or draws, then this was just the determinant. This was the game that was going to determine whether he is national champion or not. And at this point, he's still remaining with one game. He's still remaining with one game, and he has just won. The game is likely to start at 10 today, just on New Year's Eve. And it's just, honestly, it's quite an impressive performance. So here you can see d4 was played, and quickly the opponent responded with d5, just the normal Queen's Gambit, declined, and yeah, just normal stuff. Nothing that has not been seen before. Nice idea here. I just usually want to exchange the pieces. If the bishop drops back here, you capture it and you just disturb the structure of your opponent. So usually you're forcing them to exchange. And this one, I'm guessing Jadon was just playing for a draw because he didn't try to overextend. He didn't try to stretch his pieces. And you can see the moves that are being played. Nothing too complicated here, right? The pieces are entering into the position, and I mean, he knows if he gets a draw, he's in a very good standing. He can try to struggle on the last round, but at this point, a draw is a very good outcome for him. And notice, nothing. He didn't try to overextend his pieces. It was just a slow game. And now the only question is, will he draw? So here you can see the moves are played, and yeah, just try to to extend on the queen side, push the pawns necessary, and yeah, Buera is trying to fight. Honestly, he's trying like putting pressure on the rook over here. He is trying to fighter for the win. But there's just no way to make sufficient progress. I don't like that move. For someone that is, I would say, in this case, just needs a draw, you don't have to overextend in this manner. But I guess he decided, midway, I want to win. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So at this point, notice a bit of some inaccuracy moves, but you don't have a good way to take advantage of that. So I wouldn't exactly call them inaccuracies from a human perspective. Like, it's a bit hard. And here, notice, it just plays here, and this is a draw. And if at this point, so if your opponent goes, say they go here, right? This is now losing. So he didn't have an option but to just draw. He's losing here because once the queen enters into position, you don't have an option but to go to one over these squares. And after that, the queen comes and the exchange ensues. And once you lose the queen in this position, the game is over. You can take this pawn, but this knight is going to fall, and then this pawn is going to fall, and then these two pawns are on the A and B file are just going to penetrate through the position, and just one is eventually going to queen. So here Boira doesn't have particularly any option but to just yeah, he just has to draw, he has to come back. And yeah, this is just going to result into a draw. He goes back here and this, and just back and forth, back and forth. So the game against McLegal, so Jadon versus McLegal just finished. I was about to post the video right now because Jadon had already won the tournament, so he's the champion for Kenya. But I thought it was interesting, and because I haven't posted it yet, I just want to include it so that you guys can enjoy the full package. So without further ado, let's get into it. So Ifo was played, and surprisingly, Gecko Piano is seen for the first time, and just normal Gecko Piano ideas. And usually nowadays, GMs usually like to go for this kind of Gecko Piano where they hide the bishop in there, and the bishop has some long-term pressure in the king side over there, and usually it's just a little bit more solid and sophisticated. It's just much more interesting. This is exactly how you want to play. Here you can just drop back your bishop, and the game continues. Here you can see take capture, the exchange happens, and yeah, here you don't really, you can even push the pawn. You don't have to be too concerned with the bishop pinning your knight here because of some ideas like yeah, when the knight comes back and puts pressure on your bishop. So now if your bishop moves away, the queen can take the pawn here. So usually there are those ideas and tactics, but usually there are those techniques. Usually there are those tactics and ideas, but you don't need to be too bothered about them because you can easily gain back that pawn. But you need to be very careful here because of yeah. So at this point, the queen is being attacked, but you can't exactly take that because your queen is also being attacked. So you need to first take away your queen. And here there is an attacker on this pawn, and the queen is also being attacked. So obviously the best move should be to cover with the knight. But which knight do you cover with? One knight is okay, might even be considered a good move, and the other is a complete blunder. And here Jadon just proceeded to play the west move, and that is a complete blunder. The evil bars are gone off in the charts. I was thinking here maybe he has gotten tired because his past 3 games haven't been as good as the first 7 games. The first 7 games were just top notch. They were classics. I really enjoyed every second of those games. But these ones, mistakes here and there, and they're not those simple mistakes. They're like in this particular case a complete blunder. But he tried to come back, and that was a blunder because you're going to be down an exchange. Even though you can capture the queen over here, you just you just can't sustain that for a long period of time, and obviously the attack is going to come in. And just forgive my network here.
It's a little bit lagging. But yeah, the knight comes back, and the knight comes in, and after this is just yeah, he just has to wait for his death, honestly. So yeah, the rooks are coming into the position exactly what it's supposed to be doing, and here the knight goes there, exchange, pawn push, and here there's not much that Jadon can do really. This rook is not participating, and it can't exactly participate. You can try to bring in your piece in there, but that doesn't do much. The rook can just drop back. You can't go and attack there because there's pawn push. So here, all that he has to do is just be a little bit more patient. So now he has allowed for the rook to come into the position and just decimate everything. So the rook enters into the position. The bishop retreats, and here this pawn can be taken immediately, but there's not even much need to do that. You can just exchange. Because here, if you take with the bishop now, the bishop gets pinned and that gets taken. And now the rook is going to be next. It's going to fall next. And the position is going to easily be lost. So after this, the bishop gets taken. The king takes the bishop. Pawn push. Really good move. Just exchange everything. Because he has a superior position. After pawn push, there's check. And after this, just Jadon resigns. And yeah, it was a really good game. Makageo played well, but I feel like Jadon didn't play to the best of his abilities, I would say. Made a few blunders here and there. Blunders that I've not seen throughout the game. Like, I feel like this was by far his worst game. But I'm guessing it's because he knew that he had already won and he wasn't putting in too much effort. But still, I mean, it would have been good if he had just drawn as well. Who knows? But yeah, it has been a very good tournament, especially for Jadon. Really enjoyed watching the games. It was really entertaining. Yeah, all the moves that were being played is just classic. I enjoyed everything about his play, honestly, except for this game. I would say one of his not so good games, but yeah, overall, amazing performance.